Spoiler, for anyone who's been wondering how far ahead I brought the build this week, here she is. To see how I've got this far, stay tuned and watch the upcoming video. Due to the small size of my shed, even with the camera set to a wide angle, I've still got to pan to capture the full size of the boat. So similarly to the dinghy I built here in this shed last year, you'll have to wait until she comes out of the building and completed before you can actually see the real shape of her. Now that all of the ribs have been installed on both sides, the next step now is to start stripping the hull. While I was steaming the ribs and bending them in place, I had a piece of 2x4 lodged on top of the keel so that I would have a level place for lodging clamps. When all the ribs were in place and I removed the 2x4, I noticed that the keel had developed a sideways bend in it. So that has to be corrected now before I start putting the strips on. Well, the first strip, or the garboard, if you can call 1.5 inch strips a garboard, is in place on the starboard side. So now I've got to wait for the wood glue to set. As I get further along and get more strips put in place, I won't have to spend as much time waiting for glue to set because there'll be more exposed edges that I can glue to. As you can see, I've got a stiffener clamped in place to make sure that the keel stays straight. So I'll be gluing another strip in place alongside of that one before I take the stiffener off. Then I can put the garboard in place on the port side, and I'll be able to start stripping out both sides simultaneously, so there'll be less time waiting for glue to dry. In the end, I decided to put 3 strakes on the starboard side before taking the stiffener off the port side and getting started over there. It didn't take much pressure to straighten the keel, but by putting an extra strake on, I figured there's less chance of springback. And through the magic of video editing and multiple test fits, it falls right in place. Well, now that the test fit is completed, it's time to apply the duct tape to the ribs. You may have noticed that there's duct tape on the other side. The reason being is that I don't want the strips to stick to the ribs, because the ribs is not part of the boat. So any squeeze out from the edge gluing will end up on the duct tape and not on the ribs. And once again, waiting for the glue to dry. Well, as you can see from this last seam here, I've switched from using white wood glue to construction adhesive. I think it's too cold here in the shed for white wood glue to work properly. Yesterday morning when I came out, instead of the glue being dried clear like it was supposed to, it was dried with a chalky residue. After doing some research on it, it was suggested that the wood glue had previously frozen, which I knew wasn't the case, or it's too cold where it's being used, which is more than likely what happened. There's a fair bit of squeeze out, but it's suggested that you wait until it's set up and scrape it off rather than try to scrape it off while it's still fresh. It'll leave a lot less of a mess. Well, it is now the next day, and time to see how well this construction adhesive cleans up. Seems to be coming away just fine. Squeeze out is cutting away nice and clean, not leaving any mess on the strips. Just the way I need it for sanding later. There's nothing left there that will clog up the sandpaper during the sanding. This is the construction adhesive I'm using. It's LePage's Construction PL Premium 3 times.